So I have been obsessed with, in love with the Apollo lunar module since at least the age of 5. June 1972 is when I made this collage with my mom. Got a couple of nice lunar module pieces here. I believe this one's by Air and Space Museum collectible. Center stage detaches, very nice. This one's less fond of, by Play Vision. Main reason to bother with it is that it docks so nicely with the command service module. There's a little one by Micro Machines, Galoob Micro Machines. Not that fond of that one either. And it was searching for lunar modules and smaller space figures that would be in scale with die-cast cars that first led me to the Blue Shield Apollo Capsule sets. I'm not sure what else to call it. Here's an array of these vehicles, presumably made by or at the behest of LP Toys in Hong Kong at some point during the late 1960s, early 1970s. The chromed version here is from an Apollo moon exploring set number, what is that, 304A, with the Major Matt Mason moon crawler. It's the chromed lunar module, which interestingly has no front door. The rest of these all have doors, so their design etymology is of a different origin than whatever this is, and they have more in common with this piece here. Moon Traffic, the Prospector card, and we have what is an oversized Apollo command service module, and then a little blue lunar module like this one here, although this example came from England by a vendor specializing in cake decoration, vintage cake decoration sets. And these Blue Shield Apollo capsule sets would always come with a group of these diminutive LP Toys designed spacemen. Here's a variety of them. And it was when working on the space art piece that I used one of these lunar modules in that I realized that, you know what, I'd actually opened all the Blue Shield Apollo capsule sets that I'd scored in the spring of 2019, probably presuming that I'd just get another. And when I went back to get it, the cupboard was bare. And then I remember these. My man Clayton had for sale for a while. I'd had them in and out of my cart a couple of times, and finally decided, you know what, I need to have at least one of these sealed, and he had 2 of them. And knowing Clayton, they are pristine and perfect and sealed. Each one will have a lunar module vehicle and an assortment of figures. Those are odd compared to what I've got. What I have is more along the lines of these. These again. No, they're the same. I was just seeing a shadow on their bases, made it look like they were painted. And they're not. The figures themselves stand just a little bit shorter than the Golden Astronaut figures. And the LP Toys smaller scale painted figures. I'm fairly certain they're different because the casting details, for instance, if you look at their legs and their boots, the one on the right, the white figure, has thicker legs and boots than the painted example on the left. And again, one of the things that led me to these was wanting to find, at the time when I first began this project, it was all about using die-cast vehicles. I was going to make a Hot Wheels track that ran through an art gallery. And I still intend to do it. Pandemic's just got us off course. And was going to get a bunch of Hot Wheels cars that were like white and invite artists to paint one, and we were going to race them through the gallery. And the reason why I went nuts and got so many of these is that the scale is pretty much spot on. There, that's the new 2020 Mattel Dream Machine. I believe that's what it's called, based on a 1950s friction drive vehicle made by Mattel. And here's a couple of more straightforward space type vehicles. I can't remember what that one's called right now off the top of my head, but here's a NASA Chariot. And again, he's actually a little bit too big for the Chariot, but you can see how important these figures are going to be for this project, and having a sealed example of these Blue Shield sets was a priority. Very cool. I also wanted to point out how some of these are different than others. Some of these little guys here, you can tell, for instance, that the sculpting characteristics of the blue one on the end is not quite up to the standards of the rest of them. And indeed, this came from a multiple toy makers toy set. They apparently copied LP Toys' diminutive spacemen for their own needs. This one here, the red one, came with the blue lunar module from the UK-based vendor. And on the bottom, there's actually a Hong Kong stamping. None of the others that I have any markings on them at all. Well, other than the 3 that came with it. Here's an image crib from Toy Soldier HQ, which confirms that LP did apparently authorize all 8 of their classic Spaceman poses in this 28mm size, which makes sense to have them work with Hot Wheels scale vehicles at 61 to 64 scale, when you consider that 60mm toy soldiers are considered to be 1 to 32 scale. These two are going to stay sealed. I'm very stoked to have them. They are pristine, they are perfect. And here's just an aside on how obsessed I am with this one. Here's one of the Hing Fat Space Bucket lunar landers. I had one as a kid. I had model kits of the Grumman vehicle, but I never had a toy piece of it. And I remember having this one as a kid and not only destroying it out of love, but being puzzled as to why it's so different than the Grumman design. There's no door, there's no ladder. I used to wonder if it was a robot. And it's one of the reasons why I still remember having it as a kid, was just being so puzzled by why it's so different than the Grumman design. And it's only now as an adult that I've learned what the story is with it. We can have all sorts of die-cast near 1 to 64 scale adventures with astronauts and vehicles. At some point I still want to make the track, but right now the project is more about my love of space exploration and the importance that it served to me as a kid, how inspired I was in the 1970s, I guess that would be the way to do it, by the events that were taking place around me. And the lunar module was literally the face of it. I used to think that looked like a big face coming at you through the void. Beats painting baskets of apples.
Miles and miles and miles.